Alright, we're back for round 2 of our rules interpretation videos. And this week I once again have 2 different videos, the first of which should hopefully be short and sweet, and the second of which will be a little more complicated, but in this case they're going to be related to one another. And the first one should lead into a better understanding of the second. So, without further ado, let's get into it. This is the game between Team Alberta here in dark and Team Columbia here in white from a couple weeks ago. Team Columbia has actually had 14-12, and Tierney is about to pick up the disc, so the stakes are high here. Let's watch what happens. Okay, I think that's about enough. So this is kind of an interesting situation which occurs not infrequently and is kind of unfortunately misunderstood more often than it really should be because it's a pretty straightforward rule. So Tierney picks up this disc, he's looking for someone to throw to, he finds Dave in the end zone, or so he thinks. Dave actually catches this disc with 1 foot in the end zone and 1 foot out of the end zone. So in this week of Winter League, I actually went through the trouble of putting cones here on the end zone so that we'd have a better chance of seeing where the lines are. You can also kind of see it out over here, but it's pretty clear that this foot is in the end zone, this foot is out. What does that mean? It means that even though he's caught it and 1 foot is in the end zone, it's not a goal. So if we go to the rule book, Rule 11 is about scoring. Part A says a goal is scored when an inbounds player catches any legal pass in the end zone of attack and retains possession of the disc throughout all ground contact related to the catch. That's pretty straightforward. Part 1 of that says to be considered in the end zone after gaining possession of the disc in accordance with these rules. The player's first point of ground contact must be completely in the end zone. So this is the relevant rule. There's actually a case where I think the rule book could be a little more explicit about how to interpret what's going on. And kind of, I think, the crucial element here is this idea that players' first point of ground contact must be completely in the end zone. I'm going to say something a bit later about why this ground contact stuff is in blue here, but what that means is his first point of ground contact is actually kind of 2 different points of ground contact, and one is in the end zone and one is out, so they're not completely in the end zone. That means it's not a goal. Continuing this on forward, you'll notice what Dave does here. Once he realizes it's not in the end zone, it's what we call straddle, and he tries to set a pivot inside the end zone. I'll go back there in just a little bit. He realizes that he can't have a pivot inside the end zone, and then he sets it back here on the goal line where his other foot was when he caught the disc. So this is making part B of this scoring rule applicable, which says if after receiving a pass outside the end zone, a player comes to a stop contacting the end zone, that player must carry the disc back to and put it into play at the closest spot on the goal line. So the rules were clearly interpreted correctly here. Unfortunately, Columbia didn't wind up scoring in this particular instance, but at least they played fairly. I'm going to go over to the website here with the rule book in it where I got these rules. This is from the USA Ultimate site itself, the 11th edition rules. I apologize for my antiquated version of Google Chrome here, but I'm going to zoom in a little bit to make this slightly easier to see. The reason that some of these terms are in blue here is because if you highlight them, it gives you more information about them. So what does ground contact mean? It means all player contact with the ground directly related to a specific event or maneuver, e.g. jumping, diving, leaning, or falling, including landing or recovering after being off balance, so on and so forth. This is nice. This gives you more than is in the printed version of the rule book, which you get if you're a member of USA Ultimate. You can also, if you hit these little information bars here, if the player, this is describing first point of ground contact. It says if a player clearly lands on his toes first and then continues down onto his heels, His toes are the first point of ground contact. If a player lands fairly flat-footed and it's not possible to determine which part of foot contacted the ground first, the entire foot is the first point of ground contact. I think it would be nice if USA Ultimate put another little explanatory remark here in the rules to say that if there are sort of two simultaneous points of ground contact, of first ground contact, then if one is in the end zone, one is out, then it's not a goal. And likewise, if that happens to you when you're on the sidelines, and there's a question about whether you are in or out, you kind of have to infer this from the rules. Basically, if you land with 1 foot out and 1 foot in, you're out of bounds. The relevant rule there is 9C. A player contacting the out of bounds area is out of bounds, so if anything is touching out of bounds, you're out of bounds. It's not that if anything is touching inbounds, you're inbounds. It's just the opposite. So, if you're straddling a line anywhere, it means you're not in the goal. It means you're not inbounds. That's it for this one. I'll continue on with this theme in part 2 in a minute.